I'm Wanda Horton, and first I'd like to see how many people are interior designers in the audience. I was sitting in the front and I didn't get to see this really, okay? And then how many of you are in the furniture manufacturing end of things, okay? And then the rest are associated with High Point students and so forth. Okay. I just always like to know who I'm chatting with. First of all, I'd like to say that I think that social media began for me probably in the first grade. Now, it's not that I had that, heads up on what was getting ready to happen in my world, but I remember back in the Stone Ages, as I say, when I was in first grade, Mrs. Frick, my teacher, used to send home a report card, and she said, Wanda's a delightful child, but she really likes to visit with her neighbors a bit much. So I think I was just, practicing for the day when I really could visit with a lot of people, and social media has really been my cup of tea ever since. How I began in social media was really fear-based, and that's probably not a great thing to admit, but back in 2008, as we started to see the economic downturn and some of the challenges that we had with the economy, I had been online reading a lot about different seminars and webinars about social media, and there was this sort of ominous prediction that if you weren't involved in social media in the next 5 years, well, you might not be in business. So it really made me kind of stand up and take notice. And I also really did feel as if we were in a major shift in the interior design industry. A lot of consumers were going online to source. We were a little concerned about being cut out of the picture because of we already had to compete with HGTV and a lot of other online activities as far as online selling, and the consumer was heading in that direction. But now with the shift in the economy, I also noticed that people didn't seem to have that same sense of trust and that same sense of comfort in how they were going to make their buying decisions. So one of the things that I learned about in having an online presence is that even though I had a really great clientele base and I really felt like I could go back to my current client base to keep my business afloat, I also realized that, they may be affected by the economy as well, and I needed to reach a larger audience. Well, I also happen to enjoy writing. So in 2008, after hearing about social media and reading about it and taking some seminars and webinars, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to combine my love of writing and communicating in blogging. One of the things, though, I didn't realize when I began blogging is if you build it, they won't necessarily come. So here I am blogging away, and I'm just, chatting about all different kinds of things. When I blog about information that's beneficial to consumers and potential clients, and to share some knowledge, but I also like to share some musings about everyday life, and sometimes I intertwine the two. So for several months here I am blogging away, and I'm thinking, how do I know if I'm reaching anybody? It's sort of like standing in a room and wondering, what is it they'll saying, if the tree falls in the forest, if there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound? So I really needed to have some way to make another outward connection. Twitter is the first place that I began in social media aside from blogging, because I felt like that was a way that I could probably connect with more people, but really, again, to connect with people that I felt like were within my community, because there is sort of that feeling of safety in numbers, and if you do know people that are in the design and the home furnishings community, maybe you would be able to share some of your experiences with them. Meanwhile, the consumer's also kind of watching this, and they see that you're willing to be open and you're willing to share information. And I thought that was very important for people to be able to see. I think that Leslie made a really good point earlier today when she started talking about people needed to see that we were less competitors, but we were more in terms of collaborators with one another, that we were open to building each other up and that we were open to supporting one another. And by that meaning that we weren't being so secretive and that we were being more transparent. And I know that word probably gets used, maybe even overused a bit, but I think that consumers were looking to see, if I'm looking at working with an interior designer, how does she actually work? How does she treat her clients? What information base does she have? What's her knowledge? What's her background? What's her experience? And people said to me, well, isn't that kind of strange that when you first start out that you have other people that are in your same community that are following you? I know that sounds a little voyeuristic, but people that are paying attention to what you're saying, or they're connecting to you with friendships. And I said, well, actually, this is how I look at it. First of all, if people see that, I mean, it's not a numbers game, and we really don't want it to be that way, but if people do see that you are interacting, that you're not just throwing a tweet out there or a comment, but you're actually having an interaction with people, that means you're open to that, number one. Number two, what it shows you is that you have credibility. If just think about it, if people are in your own industry and they're paying attention to what you're saying and they're making comments about it, or you're doing the same for them, think of the credibility that builds within the industry, and what it does for you personally too. And then the other thing is, it's just that good old adage about, if you think about going out to dinner and you see two restaurants, and there's a restaurant where there's nobody in line and there's a restaurant where there are a lot of people in line, where do you tend to go? You tend to want to be where all the people are, because you feel like there must be something good being served, or something that is interesting to know about. So with Twitter, I carried that over into Facebook, because at first I thought Facebook was really a place where a lot of people shared, well, we went on vacation here, and here are pictures, and maybe grandmothers shared pictures of grandchildren, which of course I later learned that was a really good demographic to pay attention to. But what I also learned about was the fan page, and that is kind of a strange name. I feel like that is a little braggadocious, but that's what Facebook calls it. But basically, that's your business page. And I learned that through that experience of blogging, that I could take micro content from my blog and bring that to my Facebook page. And then I could pull traffic back to my blog, and the same thing with Twitter. If there was something that I felt like might be an important tip, or just, there might be 4 items or 5 or 6 items, which that's another thing that I've learned, and I try to practice a little bit more in the way that I write content, is that sometimes you can make a statement of, let's just say I'm talking about eco-friendly design. If I put that out there, people might go, But if I put out there, here are 6 tips or 6 quick tips for creating eco-friendly design in your room, that's going to get a lot more. You're going to get a lot more clicks. You're going to get a lot more people following through, because people like to think, okay, this is going to be quick and it's going to be to the point. And I've been accused of not always being that way. So it takes a little bit of discipline for me to tweet and to also to do those 4 or 6 quick tips. The other thing that so this is kind of geared towards the interior designer, but also for the furniture industry, I think what I have found with social media that allows me to interface with you more, and might be a benefit for you to know, is that as consumers are out there sourcing the internet, so are the designers. And if you make your sites, and this is not just social media, this goes back to your website, but if you make your sites more user-friendly, designers are trying to really capitalize on their time, their business time during the day. So I know a lot of times I get calls from reps wanting to meet with me and show me the latest and greatest, and it's not that I'm not interested, but let's face it, I'm out there, I'm trying to see clients, and I'm trying to keep that cash flow going. So if I can't meet with your representative or the person that you're trying to put in front of me, I'm going to go to the internet to try to do some sourcing. Now think about if you connect with me in a way that is 24/7, which would be social media. So if you make your sites user-friendly, if you make it so that I can refer that back to the consumer, because I'm in that odd little position. I am both an end user and I'm also a person who is selling to someone. So not only do I have to source it and do I have to do some investigation and be the expert in that category, I also am turning that over to someone else. I'm turning it to the consumer, or I'm taking the consumer to your product. Yes? Yeah, that's okay. So really, I just want to wrap it up and just say that I really enjoy social media, and I use several different avenues, but the main thing is that I use it as points of connection. So it's a collaborative type of thing, and when you are supporting one another, you're actually supporting your own business.